Ikimoto has already revealed what can happen in this arc that will truly ruin everything. The worst possible outcome for this specific arc. And we're going to be going over what exactly that is and what it will lead to, as there are a lot of hints that actually point towards this being the case, where if Boruto ends up losing, it will truly be the beginning of the end for this planet. And what exactly am I talking about? I'm truly talking about Himawari's death, but most importantly, Eida being turned into a Shinju, or at least that's the belief that most people have. The ending result of Eida being in this tree state that we have seen multiple other people who were bitten by the claw grimes end up turning into due to them being bit by said claw grimes. This is how we had characters like Bug, Hidari, Matsuri, all these different characters ended up popping up through the fact that they ended up being bitten by a claw grime and turning into trees. But this case is quite different due to the fact that we are most likely not going to be seeing claw grimes in this arc. The last time we saw claw grimes, it was due to the fact that Code brought them into the village, and due to the fact that Jira doesn't want the village to end up being destroyed, and Mamushi himself can create multiple different clones of himself, so he doesn't necessarily need the manpower. We're most likely not going to see claw grimes. So it means that what causes Eida to turn into a tree is most likely due to the fact that Mamushi ended up devouring her, and that is why she ends up turning into a tree. Which means that I don't believe that we're going to be seeing Eida turn into a Shinju, but we're going to be seeing the results of what takes place when somebody's target ends up being devoured, when Mamushi ends up devouring Eida. As the main premise in Mamushi, before he even stepped into the village, was this whole fact that the Shinju have to prosper. And that was the main purpose and idea that we started to have Mamushi start to display, where even Jura himself agreed with it and said that that isn't a bad idea. This goes along the fact that we also have the Shinju in Jira who asked Code what would happen if he was the one to eat the divine tree for himself and not give it to Code. What I believe that we're seeing being built up here is the Shinju obtaining these godly powers, and with them devouring Eida, this will allow the Shinju in Matsuri in this case specifically to obtain said godly powers. So what will take place when Mamushi ends up devouring Eida if this ends up being the case, as I believe is most likely to take place in my personal opinion. But if that is to take place, I believe that Eida will not turn into a Shinju, but her body will be used as a vehicle to get Mamushi to obtain said powers, where just like he indicated that he desired, he would like to dominate Eida's genetics. He would like to have Eida's genetics for himself. So what I believe could take place is abilities that Eida has being transferred to that of Mamushi. But Mamushi himself, I do believe that he will change, where he will ultimately get a part of himself fulfilled, where he loses some of those character traits that Mamushi may have and evolves into an even brighter being. But this time we have Eida's personal weaknesses that are reflected through his character, and Eida's personal desires that are reflected, but as a completely different being, but now with Eida infused into his personality. So almost like a mixture of both Mamushi and Eida, but this time with a greater focus on Eida's own individual problems and own shadow. As Ikimoto described, the personalities of the Shinjus ultimately reflect the host's true personality. The fact that with character like Shinki, we see that Ryu is a lot more playful. Shinki most likely reserved part of his personality and part of his true self, and we have Ryu that ends up representing the totality of that fact. And with Mamushi, we see his almost perverted side, this lustful side of Mamushi being showcased that we didn't necessarily see in Bug. So now when Mamushi ends up devouring Eida, we will see that side of Mamushi be completed in a way. And now the main focus will most likely be Eida's own true personality. Her own weaknesses will be explored. The fact that she had this desire of wanting to have friends, but she also had the desire of being loved by everybody else, which was showcased through her omnipotence. And one thing that's going to be interesting is seeing exactly what Eida's backstory is like. Why exactly did she want to be desired so bad by all those other people? That was her main unconscious desire that allowed this ability of omnipotence to be showcased through what we know of as charm. We do know that in different instances she is capable of using omnipotence at a higher degree. We do know that she inherited some of Shibai's genetics, and that's the main ability as was showcased in the prophecy arc, but that was what she was capable of showing due to her unconscious desires. So we could potentially see that same ability being transferred to Mamushi when he ultimately ends up evolving into this new being. As there's definitely going to be changes in Mamushi himself. Eida won't just turn into a Shinju and Mamushi continue to be the same creature. That wouldn't make any sense, or why would that be their necessary goal? But them devouring Eida would bring some sort of improvements, not only to their own individual characters and their own personal understanding of who they are and love, but we'll probably see alongside just that an increase in their power and their abilities. And for those creatures who have been influenced by Shibai Otsuki already, this is a fact that a lot of people don't end up understanding. The fact that we have a combination of multiple different people's genetics that are influencing the Shinju, and if you add on top of that Mamushi devouring Eida, they will obtain omnipotence, and that is gonna be crucial, as due to the fact that they already have said Otsuki genetics, as we know that Code's karma comes from Ishiki, so we already have that being into play, but we also have to remember that the claw marks that Code actually possesses, they don't come from Ishiki at all. They come from Shibai Otsuki. Just like all the other inners, he was also implanted with Shibai Otsuki's DNA, and thus he transferred that DNA alongside the Shinju. The simple fact that the Shinju can use the claw marks to not only bring various characters into battles, but also use it to enhance their body parts like we saw Jura capable of doing, and we see that in their clothing it does showcase those claw marks, so they have clearly also been influenced by Shibai Otsuki's DNA. So for a character that already has Shibai Otsuki DNA, I believe that Mamushi could be able to utilize omnipotence at a larger degree than any other character we have seen. The Shinju as a whole should be able to use Shibai Otsuki's abilities a lot better, as he won't only be getting Shibai Otsuki DNA from Eida, but he already possesses said Shibai Otsuki DNA. And due to that, we could see a manifestation of a greater amount of abilities than Eida herself was capable of doing. And thus the unconscious desires that Mamushi may have may be exactly what omnipotence ends up granting to Mamushi. And that's going to be crucial in figuring out what exactly will happen. But here are exactly the hints that we have been given. The fact that Mamushi has Shibai Otsuki powers, Shibai Otsuki DNA, the fact that we have the Shinju say that they would like to prosper. The Shinju as a division, as a people group, as a race, they should also prosper. An idea that humans themselves have and has led to the various technology that they possess, them being on top of the food chain. And that's personally what I view the Shinju as being very capable of doing, as they are easily able to create more Shinju as Jura desires, but they also have strength unbeknown to other characters and are not mortal creatures in the same way that humans are. They are not designed to die, but there obviously are ways in which they could be killed. So with all of those facts being put into play, we could clearly be seeing Ikimoto setting up an arc where, due to the disasters that take place in this battle, we could see the Shinju end up reigning over the entire ninja world system, and what has been something very important about Eida's abilities throughout the entire series, and the reason why she was let into the village to basically do whatever she wants. Shikamaru made this point quite clear, that with said powers that Eida has, she could take over the ninja world in a blink of an eye. She could do it quite easily, and that was why they showed her so much hospitality, not due to the immediate raw power that she possesses, although she could be a fighter but just doesn't like to do so, but it wasn't mainly just on that. It was due to her charm ability that comes from omnipotence that gives her such a degree of control over other people that now she is capable of ruling over anyone that isn't an Otsuki. And And that is what we could see Mamushi and the Shinjus end up showcasing with all these various powers that they have. So, it is going to be quite interesting what we do end up seeing developing. The Leaf Village being destroyed, the strongest village and the most important village in the ninja world. So if it got destroyed, what else would happen to the other rest of the villages? We could potentially see an arc where Jura ends up going on to all these various villages and creating Shinju out of the people who he deems to be the most useful or have the coolest abilities. This is an arc that would honestly set Boruto as a series above a lot of other series to me personally, and we could see a lot more world building that I believe Boruto is in crucial need of. This is an option that I could see, but ultimately it would end up tying in perfectly to why we see other Otsukis popping in, because the Ten Tails is never supposed to have Shibai Otsuki's DNA, and that being a very own fact of these various Shinjus being out there with said Shibai Otsuki DNA and abilities like omnipotence. If this isn't the definition of an abomination, I don't think anything else will come close to it, as what we're seeing right here is the Otsuki mandate being completely reversed, with the Ten Tails now evolving and the Otsukis said regressing, as their abilities are being taken and given to the Ten Tails. So this is what could end up sparking the recruitment of other Otsukis to be sent to Earth, due to the simple fact that an abomination was created with said Shinju. It will make the confrontation between Momoshiki and Jura to be even more interesting, as the more and more the Shinjus end up operating in this realm with nobody being able to take them down, the stronger and stronger they are becoming. And the stronger and stronger we have these characters be that have power on the earth, the more tears it will end up causing in this dimension, as we have been noted by Momoshiki, Urashiki, and other sorts of Otsukis. And we have seen in Tonori's conversations, this dimension has already exceeded its level of harvest. So the planet in this chakra, which is causing the tears all around in this dimension, should have been collected a while ago. And due to that very own fact, we have seen Momoshiki come to it. But with all the time that it has taken, and probably for people who are Otsukis it doesn't look like much time, but with characters like Shinju popping in, it probably will be a sign to those other people that things have to be taken care of. So the next people that we do end up seeing being called through, maybe we see something that has to do with the missing Otsukis, or just the Otsuki clan as a whole, but the next Otsuki pair that will be sent will most likely be one that is astronomically stronger than what we have seen in the past, and we could see something completely different end up taking place. But obviously this is a lot of headcanon, this is us diving a lot deeper into the story, but this is just to showcase the path that the story could end up taking, just how quickly things could go wrong. So my question to a lot of you guys, is the Boruto universe going to go wrong in this arc? Do you believe we're going to be seeing the Shinju maybe remain a lot longer and prosper, where Boruto ultimately ended up failing in some aspects in this arc? Or do you think everything is going to go right? Just like the last arc, we will see Boruto who ends up surviving, whose decisions end up being the best ones, not only for himself and for the future, but also for his friends. Do you think Boruto can manage everything and everything go right? Or do you believe that it is a bit naive? Boruto's approach might not necessarily work. Let me know all of those in the comment section below, and make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. But ultimately the true question is, does Boruto have the power necessary, especially with him using the karma? Just how much stronger has Boruto become? Watch this video right here to find out the answer to this question.